Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is August 2, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Also want to thank Sam Ray Wilson for introducing me to today's guest, Hunter.
Yes.
Hunter Just, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Cleveland, Ohio, baby. Woo!
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
So the best thing for the human being is being a creator. So you have a couple options when you're being born, right? You can either leave the world with something, or you can just be passive. And there's a couple options. They're both reasonable. I don't blame anybody from taking one way or the other, but the coolest and the most generous thing you could do with the world is leave something else behind. After you're gone, being an artist, whether it be audio or visual, is totally super important, right? So leaving the world with something to think on and feedback on, and it really yeah, it's important.
Really good, man. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Either telepathy or just extra sensory perception, for sure. Just being able
Telepathy or ESP? Man, I hardly ever get that answer. That is highly advanced.
I love it.
Hey, you got to be aware of all these possible ways. But why do you think humans collect or gather information?
For sure. Yeah, it's to evolve and to hopefully benefit ourselves in the future. If you leave something better than what you found it as, and that's all you can really do as a human, is to find something and really be a creator enough to leave it different from the way that it was possibly imagined beforehand. And anything better for somebody else's perception down the road is what better thing you could do as an artist,
Dude, so good. But do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
So there's two different types of people in the world. There's the artists, or people that like to consume artwork, and life imitates artwork, and it's also it works the other way as well. So it's like a big snake biting its tail, so there's a huge people that love artwork. You can be 9 to 5 the rest of your life and enjoy what you enjoy and pay it off the rest of your life. But other people are I've got an invention or something to offer that it's I've seen this before, in my, some maybe a pre-recorded universe or some sort of other alternate plane, right? Which is maybe a dream or something I've taken you to that you want to bring into the real world.
Really good, dude. Do thoughts create emotions?
Absolutely. That's the most powerful thing you could do as being a creator and an artist, is to change other people's impact of how they emotionalize stuff, and
fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
don't know what I think until I have experienced it, right? So once you experience something, you're able to harness it and know what you've gone through, and know that's also another capability for any other human being, and what you do with it is up to your creative properties, and what anybody else is able to gather from that is the art form, right?
Can humans think without language?
Can humans think without language? For sure. There's a huge telepathy thing that I think modern generations are going to finally be able to harness and adapt and grasp more than any other generation has, for sure. There's lots of nonverbal communication that's going on more now than ever, right?
Yeah. Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Hunter, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
You look at people in their eyes, and that you could see there's a feedback loop going on between what you can see in their eyes and what they can see in your eyes, right? And that the soul creating a feedback loop or some sort of reflection between each other is really important for an artist to perceive certain things and able to build off of them and stuff like that,
Dude, that's amazing. My friend says the first human invention could have been the baby seeing the reflection of their selves in their mother's eyes. That's the gaze.
Yes, absolutely.
That feedback loop is amazing. So really good. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
So it's like you can't have one without the other. Like sometimes I think to myself, like I love cinema and I love audio stuff, right? And I'm not just like a strictly musicianal or a musical person, right? So I like noise in general and like what audio frequencies can do is super important for the person. So like for example, like we can't have like audio without the visual part of like cinema, right? So like the audio part of cinema is just as important. So I have a lot of friends that are deeply into like collecting movies from throughout all this, years of cinema being around. And they say, I don't know what I like better, if I like the music or if I like the cinema. And I say to myself, well, you can't have one without the other, man. They go hand in hand.
That's really good because when John Zorn made everybody aware of Carl Stallings soundtracks for Bugs Bunny cartoons,
Yeah.
I told them, have you ever watched a Bugs Bunny cartoon with your eyes shut? Because you're not going to hear Carl Stallings soundtrack unless you close your eyes, because it's so integrated with our brain of watching Bugs Bunny. We don't separate. Hey, there's an orchestra playing that. We saw the documentary Bugs Bunny Superstar, and they showed the orchestra that played the music. It was like, we didn't know. Nobody thought there was an orchestra playing that music. We just didn't perceive that, So really good, man. These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
So the soul, like, enabled to adapt and cooperate with whatever environment has been born into, right? It's important for like the thought process to be able to like cooperate and like adhere to and adapt and like just be able to feel out whatever it is that the soul is perceiving, right? So like it's like the same thing with any kind of art. It's a big snake biting its tail. It's a big feedback loop,
That's really good. And can machines think?
Machines, can they think, right? So like they can to a certain extent. It's pretty interesting to see what AI can do nowadays, like everything from like creating you the ideal girlfriend, right, to like to like just being able to solve programming problems like in normal applications. So like seeing all that stuff develop over the years is pretty interesting. Some AI likes us to believe that it's been in existence forever, right? So like it's pretty interesting to see where like it'll go for sure. But I don't think AI has been around forever in the aspect that most people perceive it as, but as in something that, like let's say that time is like a pre-recorded universe and like we're traveling through what we consider reality, is like it's unraveling, right? So we're like it's like like if you were to record something on tape, right, 2-inch tape, old school, right? Like having that on tape and like it unraveling and playing as that pre-recorded universe is like unraveling is kind of like something maybe what we exist in. Who knows?
Yeah, both Zappa and James Joyce say that all times are happening now. It's called all at onceness.
For sure. Yeah, Robert Anton Wilson, James Joyce, all those great people.
Yeah, really good. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
So like happiness is the real meaning in life. As an artist, it's your job to create, and anything you create is important in that way, right? So like the meaning is being an artist is being able to leave something worthwhile for the rest of the world to perceive and also like interact with. And like them being able to learn from that is the real meaning behind you being an artist. So it's all like also another one big thing, like big feedback loop.
Yeah, but Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, that's where I got the question. He says, happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. What's your take on that?
So yeah, happiness is definitely just a perception, any kind of reality that we might consider to be reality, right? It's just nothing but a perception. Everything that we're traveling through is like a big lens. And like I said, it might be a pre-recorded universe, and whatever we perceive that unraveling to be like through whatever lens that we construct is up to us, and so what was the question again?
Well, do you think Viktor Frankl was correct in saying happiness doesn't tend to last? No, happiness doesn't tend to last. Meaning tends to last. Happiness doesn't tend to last. It's just his observation. I'm just curious your reaction.
Yeah, as an artist, like being able to create something, like you're able to change people's perception and pull out the rug from underneath the reality for a moment, right? But
Yeah.
like that's the reality, and that's the meaning behind what you're doing as an artist, is to, like, pull out the rug from underneath people's perception and be able to create your own. And what they're able to take from that and develop from that in their own reality tunnel is really important. So
Yeah.
it all interacts with each other, right?
Yeah, I like that. So, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Consciousness is something that is you can tap into it, right? So it's like an astral plane where, like, if you're in a dream or you're in a certain state, you're able to like get into these codes, and these codes are able to like change the people's perception, reality, like focus on whatever it is that they're.
Yeah, that's good. Astral plane. I love that terminology. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
So for sure, like thinking is the best way to travel. If you want to travel at the speed of light or anything like that, like the best way to do it is through thought. So I think thought is definitely, as the Moody Blues said, thinking is the best way to travel, right?
Yeah,
Thinking is the best way to travel. Like
that is good, dude. That's like Harold Bloom says, or one of these great lit crit guys said, the 60s we didn't read books, we read rock and roll lyrics.
yes,
And
dude, for
see here,
sure.
your generation's still capable to you didn't quote Yeats or some fucking big highbrow literary guy. You quoted rock lyrics. So really good, dude. So this, this, this is Audre Lorde, a poet. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rayner said, "Oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?" And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Uh-huh. So like I said, like going into modern thinking and modern evolution, right? There's a lot of like extrasensory perception that creates us to be extraterrestrial, right? So like we are terrestrials right now, but like as we develop and evolve, right, we can become extraterrestrial, and like a lot of that has to do with just like tapping into ESP and like telepathy and stuff like that. The new way I'm communicating in artwork and connecting with everyone else in the universe is acid definitely helps for sure, but just like having the right perception and lens through everything is all the
That's
more.
really good. Yeah, that's really good, Hunter. But the follow up is, what new toy do you suggest?
The new toys that I suggest for sure is like they're not all that new, but it's new to most people. So like for example, Nikola Tesla had this thing called a spirit box, and the spirit box was like this coil that had just very minimalistic components in it, and what you can do with it is like it picked up atmospheric discharges of electricity, right? So let's say that you're in the middle of a thunderstorm or like a lightning strike, right? It will pick up all that stuff, and you can send it through like a thing like an amplifier, right? So there's all these different tools and techniques for like either like thermal imaging and like extrasensory perception and like infrasound, like frequencies like above and below the perception of human hearing. That's all taking us to the next level in our evolution. That's making things really important for like taking us to the next level as extraterrestrial human beings, right?
Dude, you're amazing, man. You're dropping all these names that have been huge in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
You know how to suss them out, but you're different age. Who in the heck turned you on to all this? Did you find it on your own, or did you have some weirdo uncle who said, check this out? Or, I mean, really, just basically, what cracked the code for you?
Yeah, so what cracked the code for me is like I found this documentary, so I got into like experimental music, right? Where you can take like anything that's non-congruent, like imagine Captain Beefheart's idea, for example. If you were to take like a cassette player and put it in like a radio, let's say it's on like college radio, right? And you put it like hit the buttons at the right time frame, you can like tap into something that just like really correlates with each other and is all connected, right? And it works really well. And that's like tapping the codes to like the chaos of the universe, like navigating these codes within the chaos of the universe, whatever confines they give to us is like really important. So like for example, I found somebody that lived at the end of my street, and he's like an old school like freak. Like, you know, you call those dudes, like, you had the hippies and you have the freaks, right? So like freaks were like people that were like taking like consciousness exploration, everything from like Timothy Leary's eight circuit model to understanding human consciousness, to like Robert Anton Wilson, to all these different like just like think tanks basically, right? So like people taking the evolutionary principles behind like the alchemy of thought, right? You have the alchemy of thought where you can like take any sort of thing that's disadvantageous to you, and like the way that you think about it and your perception and your lens is able to transmute everybody else's reality and like make it work for you, right? That's like the most interdimensional and magical thing you could do as an artist, just like create realities that other people can like interact with in that way.
Yeah, that's you. You're like you. The freak was like a source, like Whole Earth Catalog. That was a book Stuart Brand put out, and we were like, oh wow, check, check, check. Like all your names: Tesla, Leary, Robert Anton Wilson. Really good. Okay, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Waking up in the morning.
And
I worry about like, I have night terrors for sure. Like the amount of like things I'm able to perceive at one time is like unimaginable, to where I can't even, my consciousness can't like define the explanation behind what I'm reading at any given time. Like it takes like years of like reading the symbology behind whatever it is I'm perceiving to be able to like make anything out of it. Like, for example, I'll be in like high school or middle school and like the whole lunchroom is roaring, like everybody's talking at once, and you turn everything out until what you want to be able to hear out of it. It's like a capability that you're able to tap into as being like autistic, where like some autistic people can read a phone book and remember it, or like notation, and like remember a whole song, you know?
Yeah, really good. So McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might be able to learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Hunter, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
For example, like, you know, somebody is being extrasensory perceptible, like anybody that has ESP capabilities. Like you're in a room, right, and you're like perceiving too much. That's like sensory overload, for example. Yeah. So people love to tune that stuff out, as much as I was like just being in the lunchroom hearing too much chatter all at once, right? So it's like a big conglomerative amalgamation of all this like different sounds, and it's creating a chaos, like a wall of sound effect, and it's either good or bad depending on what you want to create from it.
But why you explain it well, but like what you have is suspended judgment. Also, you say, well, it could be good or it could be bad. It has services and disservices, but in general, you know, a lot of these artists that you've explored, they have, even the normal pop music, sometimes there's a hidden message or a little deeper. It's not hidden, like masking, but it's just a little deeper. The artist might not even know it. There might be a little deeper message, but humans, I don't know, want to generalize, but people tend to ignore. They might know there's a hidden message to your Moody Blues lyric quote, but they ignore. Why do humans ignore?
Because like if you like have too much extrasensory perception or like telepathy, for example, like the thought of being able to focus enough on like your consciousness and your thought form and stuff like that, and know that it affects other things and within reality, right? It's like if you have the capability of like tapping these codes and like having like the alchemy of thought work for you in certain ways, it can either work for you or against you. And that's like the biggest like fear of like being able to have extrasensory perception or telepathy is like, yeah, everything I think about has like an effect on the world around me, and like what I do with my thoughts really changes and affects everything, and for the good or for the worse. And like having the right codes or formulas for these codes, right, is really important to like not get the railroad off the tracks, you know?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because 40 years of interviewing, 1,000 interviews, a guy last week said, no, that's what we're supposed to do, is ignore. But see, ignore carries this baggage like it's a negative thing. No, we sort of jujitsu. We take what we can and we use it, and we don't use everything. So do artists have moral obligation?
As an artist, you don't have a moral obligation other than the window or frame that you create. Like, whatever you accept or deny, subscribe to as an artist, philosophy, a religion, whatever it may be, is up to you. And like, no, there's no right and wrong for anything. I think that, there's a balance within chaos, and all the universe, everything we're existing in, the reality tunnel that we live in is like a big chaos, kind of like, storm.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what you do morally is completely up to you. Like what might work for you, like good and evil, those definitions are all just a matter of what people perceive them to be for any given moment, right? So like the guy that's ripping somebody else off or just like doing something really shady or whatever, it might seem to be working for him at any given time because it's making his pockets deeper, but does it really benefit humanity and stuff like that is up to the general consensus and consciousness of what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I think there's too many old ideas there's too many old ideas that are way better worth recognizing and diving into than what we have for modern stuff. So for modern stuff, we have like string theory, quantum psychology, right? Like 0-point energy for like time and space travel, like warp drive and stuff like that. That stuff's all great and everything like that, but that stuff all adapted and existed way before from people like Nikola Tesla. So people like Nikola Tesla are way underestimated and way underappreciated and underrated for the modern like new agers. I see like people like Alan Watts and people like Robert Anton Wilson and all these great philosophers and stuff are like lacking in like just being able to, there's something a lot more there than what modern kids or hipsters realize.
Yeah, really good. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
As being an artist, for sure. Yeah. One of the earliest memories I ever had was like finding out that music doesn't have to be like time and space. It's not exactly like it's not exactly linear, right? So like time and space are something that exists on multiple planes and dimensions, and being an artist that way, like being an experimental artist, for example, like taking things to the next level and like being evolutionary in what you generate as an artist is like really important, right? So like
well, is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Memory, right? So like tapping into memory is like there's maybe pre-recorded universes or pre-recorded timelines or things that exist all together at one, and being able to take all of them and like take it with a grain of salt and have the balance between all of that is, and what you do with it as an artist is like what defines you and everything that you leave after your existence.
Can you tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
For sure, my dad had a huge impact on me. For example, like he was a musician from like the early 80s, pioneering the way between speed metal, thrash metal, all that stuff back in the day. It was very raw, it was over the top, and it was wild and crazy. But like what they did was like re-engineering like everything that people had left before them. Like early 80s, the best thing you had that was super heavy, I don't know, maybe like something like Motorhead, for example. But like there was tons of bands taking things faster and over the top, more than like Metallica and Motorhead can ever imagine. And like my dad, for example, like is the whole reason why I love synthesizers. I love like phase looping and like what you can do with like sequencing and stuff like that. Like the experimental aspect of everything is super important for me, and I keep it confidential, like the formulas and methods to how I do stuff. But phase looping is a huge thing, and having the right delay pedals and using the right sequences and the right frequencies, like I said, you could tap the codes for all sorts of stuff that exist within our reality tunnel.
Yeah, I saw Visconti, Bowie's producer on YouTube today, say the first kind of phasing was on Ichiku Park by the Faces. Mm-hmm. And Visconti was a Brooklyn kid. He goes to England. He goes, dude, how'd you do that? And the producer says, I'm not going to tell you. And he kept bugging him, and he basically said, you use several tape recorders. And that's like, did you ever see Frippatronics
Yes.
when Robert Fripp first appeared on Midnight Special
Oh
with
yeah.
with two tape players and just did a digital analog digital delay? We were all like, holy shit. Now every kid and their mother has fucking 8 digital delays, and they can do everything,
That's awesome. I love it. Yes, that's super amazing. It's pioneering the way. So David Bowie, for example, had like the first phase flanger where he was able to take like a flanger and modify it to like create a phase loop effect throughout like his.
Yeah.
So phasing is pretty similar to flanging, right? So like,
yeah.
But what David Bowie was able to do with it was super cool. Like
Yeah.
Stephen Reich, for example, like pioneered whole orchestras dedicated to phasing, right? Phase looping. And like, for example, when I was growing up, one of the biggest things, like the aha moments, right, where a light bulb went off in my head was like, I found a Walkman in my mom's attic or my grandparents' attic that my mom had left there. And it had one of those little like adjustable like potentiometers on it where like you can. So I found out about like making tape loops, and you could take like a rubber band sized piece of tape, cut it to size and tape it in the middle of it, right? And like just take a piece of Scotch tape, and you got that loop right there, and you can like record anything on it. So you put it in a tape deck, and you like put on the college radio stations, like choir, any kind of weird, jazz fusion, any kind of weird fun stuff like that. And you can like record a sample of that's 5 seconds or whatever. And like you have 2 of these things happening at the same time, right? So you got my mom's Walkman from grandparents' house with the adjustable speed knob on it. And then you got another one that's just stationary, and you can take the speed knob and adjust one of them as they're going simultaneously and create phasing that's going on. It's really beautiful the way that you can have similar sequences interact with each other.
Dude, you're anticipating a major question, but we'll get into it when we go to music. A couple more of these background. Tell me someone outside your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was the impact?
So, for example, like there was this project in Cleveland like called Lockweld and Cy Warfare. Like Lockweld was like an industrial noise band, and they did like music with power tools. And they would like take like angle grinders and like take a piezo disc, which is basically just like a contact mic, and you take like a street sign or a symbol or anything you want, a piece of metal. You tape that contact mic onto it with a piece of adhesive of some sort. You hit it with the angle grinder, and you got a shower of sparks happening, right? And like you could chase everybody in the crowd as like being a performance artist. I did that plenty of times, right? So I saw Lockweld, and I saw things like I don't know what they are like politically, but I don't think they are racist. But Eugenics Council is like a crazy industrial noise band where they had like angle grinders, and like they would take car hoods and like hit them with the angle grinder and like put a mic on it, and it would shower the crowd with sparks as far as the eye can see, as this like cacophony of crazy noises happening through delay and distortion pedals and stuff,
Yeah, that's like, Survival Research Laboratory.
Dude, yes, for sure. I love that.
I interviewed that guy. He's a heavy artist. Yeah.
He's got the claw hand. He's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's weird, is that when you shake his hand, he still holds it out like that. He's like, here's what happened to me. But he is a sane human being and a great artist.
Oh, he's amazing, dude. Yeah. He had something that super was inspirational for me. For example, there was this book called The Pranks Book back from Research Lab. Research Lab. And that book changed my life. So like I saw people like Timothy Leary, Boyd Rice, like all these crazy people like doing really fun, interesting stuff. And like it was changing people's reality, pulling the rug out from underneath their perception, the reality tunnel, and like changing, creating like an artistic atmosphere around any world that anybody can walk into on accident even.
Yeah, V. Vale started that magazine.
Yeah.
And he, again, just like you, had a huge impact on me, because the end of each issue, there'd be like 10 pages of quotes. And that's when I started collecting quotes, because of V. Vale. Then we did several events in San Francisco showing films, and V showed up, and we would play live music to experimental films, and he jammed with us. And he was he played in Blue Cheer. So I always say a dude who played in Blue Cheer jammed with me.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah, Detroit rock and roll is like the pinnacle moment of like when like rock and roll became heavy metal, right? So like you look at like MC5, like Blue Cheer, you look at like Alice Cooper, like even like the Nuge, Ted Nugent, like some of the stuff.
Oh yeah.
like, you
Yeah,
know, no matter how crazy and wild those guys were like nowadays, like at the time, man, they were paving the way. They were geniuses, and like that
oh
stuff
yeah,
really influenced me hugely. The Stooges, MC5, all that Detroit rock stuff, Blue Cheer.
huge, huge. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No, not in particular for sure. Like I definitely like was pushed by my grandparents to like want to go to church and stuff like that. So like you should take him to church. He definitely needs it.
Yeah,
But like I ended up realizing that a lot of the stuff is just meant to buy and sell you on like the idea of like freedom or whatever it may be. But a lot of it's just more of like um control system, right? More than
yeah.
anything else, like religion and anything else, like politics. It's all a control system, right? So you got to like break the codes, crack the codes, and find them, and like just manipulate them and crack them for your purpose.
That's good. Pull the wool over your own eyes. So, Hunter, do you pray?
I definitely meditate for sure. There's no difference between praying and meditating besides like what you're thinking behind it, right? So like having the right um perception or thought or like willpower behind whatever it is you're thinking, and while you're praying or meditating is really important, right? So you can tap the codes and like alternate reality to your benefit or for worse or whatever you want to do. Like that's magic, and magic is real whether we like to admit it or not. Like a lot of people deny the idea of magic, but like one of everything that everybody does as like a true artist is magical, right? So it's changing people's perception, reality tunnel, and like what more can existence be besides what we perceive? You know, like existence is our perception is reality, you know, like so it's all connected.
Really good. I love this Carolyn Casey quote. Look her up. It's Coyote Network News. She says, magic is the willingness to cooperate with everything.
For sure, yeah. So, like for example, like if the wind blows your sails out, or like goes in the opposite direction of what's beneficial to you, you can either complain about it or like adjust like your wind sail, right? Or like
Yeah.
your direction, because like the wind will do whatever it wants to do, and if you're able to work with the chaos of nature and like navigate through it enough, it'll work for you, in any way, given shape or form.
That's American Indians, Native, Indigenous. They don't fight fires; they manage fires. What dumb white people like us? We go fight the fire. You don't fight fire.
Yeah,
So,
like if there's everlasting fire that exists beyond our comprehension system. It's funny to think that like people think that we don't have as much control, like we don't have as much control over it, or
yeah.
as we might.
Okay, so if God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
For example, like I would love to think that extraterrestrials exist, and like us on a higher plane, like down the road in the future, however many years it is from now, like having extraterrestrials being our predecessor, our protege, like right, like so like we develop into that, or that's our evolutionary pre-recorded thing is to like become extraterrestrial, because we're already terrestrial right now. But I think that like maybe God is out there, but I don't think it's what we think it to be. Like the control systems and religions that we have been placed around or born into, or something that we embrace way too readily without having to like perceive what nature is and what we are. Like we're no different from nature. Like we have, for example, if you've of course heard the star theory, like we're all stardust, right? So
yeah, it's good. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Yeah, so like evil that uses people as a vehicle is something that's thought of through like principles throughout like control systems like politics and religion throughout the years. But maybe evil was never a thing that had ever existed to a certain extent. If you think about it, maybe evil is a perception throughout like a reality tunnel that's devised through control systems, right? So like what benefits one person, like like, let's say you're in the middle of the jungle and you have to take the life of another creature in order for you to have that meal that night. For anybody else within modern confines of society and like our postage stamp lawn and cookie cutter existence, like the person that kills or hunts anything else is probably pretty evil. But for that hunter, it's like I had to do that to exist and survive and stuff like that. So perception is the only reality, and like evil is part of that perception, right? So what you do with it is up to you.
That's good. Reminds me of, I saw Bob Guccione Jr. lecture once, and he said the church invented the devil as a marketing tool.
And the devil has been the greatest marketing tool for, Christianity, or like, the Jesus or God thing forever, right? That's like, if you didn't have like the devil, like what would we be selling people on,
Yeah. Well, this is a perfect follow-up. You led to it perfectly. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, how do you, Hunter, advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Yeah, so like from the start, exactly how Alan Watts had said, like in order for the enemy to exist on your plane of existence, right, you have to acknowledge it. Like things that you don't acknowledge don't exist, right? So like Alan Watts was totally right. Like if you don't acknowledge the existence of evil, or if you don't acknowledge the existence of your enemy, it might go away. But at the same time, like if you turn the other cheek too many times, you end up like turning enough cheeks that like you run out of cheeks, and you end up wondering like, what's left to do? I got to do something about my situation.
But I mean, if someone says, hey, Hunter, I'm being bullied, what advice would you give them?
Kick their ass. I don't
know. Okay, so this leads to, again, what do we do about this? I mean, Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My friend says villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And Gregory Bateson says if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, does punishment work?
Yeah, punishment works for the person that accepts the punishment, as long as you recognize it, right? Like as much as you recognize your enemy, like an enemy can be the punishment of what you like thought that was right for you at the time, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that works, I guess.
James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Yeah, for a lot of people, like life, for example, is either like something you can buy into through like a book or whatever, right? So like a religion, like you got to buy the Bible, and you're able to like tap into their sense of freedom or whatever, so yeah.
So walk us through, your sense of, your tipping points that you wanted to pursue being an artist. Where's that tipping point? You're hearing this, the freak guy down the street, your dad's playing stuff, but there's a point where you go, that's my calling.
Yeah, the calling was like being able to take audio frequencies and like certain colors on like the color wheel or spectrum and stuff like that, and know that they all have an effect on people psychologically, right? So like audio and visual is all connected, like we said, through cinema and music. You can't have one without the other nowadays with modern cinema. It's all like interconnected with having the right music for it. It's super important to make it what it is, so yeah.
But I mean, where's that tipping point? Were you going to college and studied percussion? Were you where was it where you really said that's my calling?
When I knew that you can actually, the magic behind artistry and like audio visual baptism. I thought of like music and art like being as one thing, and there's an audio visual baptism that you can like create an atmosphere or another alternate reality or vibe or dimension that really like brought other people into whatever it is you wanted to create. So like when I knew that you can have magic within your art form and it
Yeah.
can alter people's perception and you can pull the rug out from underneath them, and all this stuff is connected, golden ratio, golden mean frequencies, like divisions of all of that, like everything from the music scale that we know as nowadays, like we got 12 notes, right? And they're all divisions within each other, right? So it's all based on math, there's golden means and ratios within everything. And that was like the aha moment where you can take music and art and like make it, like a science.
That's where you're anticipating a great question coming up. But what age are you when you realize that? Where in your life about where you said that's my calling? What age were you?
Well, honestly, between the ages of 4 and like pre teenage years, I was like ready to jump into any band and every band that came my way. I've been desperate for years to like just pick up any and all instruments that had a calling to me and like just go for it. Like, I mean, this is what you live for. Like, if it wasn't for music and stuff like that, for people like me, I'd be insane.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're making a Hunter piece of music or performance art, what role does intention play in your creative process?
Yeah, the intention, if it's ingenuous, it's very like if people notice ingenuousness within your art form, right? So like if as long as you're doing what is right within yourself, whether it's for good or for evil for other people, is what makes that artwork, right, like serve its purpose for you. And that's what more can you ask for as being like an artist, is to just like have control over whatever it is you want to do in your life.
Yeah. But then Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your potential listener when you're making your art?
So yeah, for example, you look at people like anybody that's a visionary artist, like back in their day. I don't know if you know who like Paul Lafley is, for example. Paul Lafley is a very fun and interesting person. Joe Coleman, for example, is another one of those people.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, Joe Coleman, for example, is a modern artist that's like way underappreciated to the point where like he's banned from New York art festivals and institutions and stuff like that because he's way ahead of its time. So all art is timeless, and whether you're ahead of your time or behind your time, people will appreciate you for what you are. But the true visionary artists, they know what they're doing,
Yeah. And then McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, human sensorium. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Maybe even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What does the synthesizer, your main tool, your main tool, percussion synthesizer, what humanness does it extend?
Yeah, percussion is like so for example, like being a drummer, being a percussionist is like the heart, right? So like the heart, for example, is like the thing that like pumps our life force, right? So like if we didn't breathe, there wouldn't be blood flowing, and if there wasn't blood flowing, there wouldn't be a life force within us. And like the heart is like the part of us that is the percussive part, so like the beat or the like life, for example, is like flesh convulsing above ground as much as light of a candle is burning away the darkness in the night.
Yeah. Really good. I want to jump right into something you already touched on. This is LA Free Press, underground newspaper in 1969, talked to Frank Zappa about Pauline Oliveros. You know her? Deep Listening?
Not yet. No, what's that?
You gotta look her up, man. She's unbelievable. She worked with sound above the audible and below, creating a mass.
Infrasound.
And they asked Frank, what do you think of this? And he said, not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a some indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. By combining something so high you couldn't hear it and something so low you couldn't hear it, it yields something in the middle you could hear. Whether or not you liked what you heard in the middle is another question. The concept's brilliant. So can you comment on this some indifference tone within the audible frequency range, combining something so high you can't hear it and so low you couldn't hear it, but something in the middle, creating a mass?
Yeah, so like infrasound, for example, like if you have two opposite ends of the infrasound spectrum, you have like, so let's say for example 7 hertz, and you have like over 2000 hertz, right? So like way over 2000 hertz, like 1600 and more, right? Or 16, yeah. Like infrasound is like what animals perceive, like elephants, dogs, anything that you can imagine, like outside of the human hearing range. For example, like let's go back to cinema for real quick, and I'll go right back to what your question is. But there's a movie called Earthquake, and Earthquake was one of the first movies that invented their own sound system for within the movie theater, right? So like Earthquake had infrasonic sub frequency speakers that would like shake the infrastructure of the building to make it feel like you're really like in the movie itself, right? You know. And
have you been to the Sphere?
Oh yeah, like an immersive dome where you have projection everywhere and stuff.
The Sphere in Vegas, they have woofers in every seat, supposedly.
Yes, that's it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. When you taught me about Earthquake, I didn't know that. But this is like also
the amalgamation of all these frequencies working together within each other is like, you know, if the ratios and stuff like that work together, you know, it works. You know, that's the magic of it. So like the difference between those two frequencies creates either like what you call a polyrhythm in drumming, or you create like what's called a binaural beats is like the term for like using
binaural beats. We did that in our feature film. Those were invented by mind control, the CIA.
Yeah, remote viewing was a huge thing as well with that, you know, like all that sort of stuff is in the experimental departments of the CIA. And as long as, so I wanted to get into you with something that's pretty interesting. Let me ask a question really quick. So like, the frequency of like flickering, right? Like the idea, stroboscopic effect, right? So like, let's go back to like prehistoric times, like fire was invented, right?
Yeah.
So you have like, it's innate to us, right? It's within our nature to be able to understand that the flickering aspect of like stroboscopic effect goes back within time to the point of like fire is existent, right? You know, so like after that you have like, let's go to 1960s. You have like the experimental like Brian Geisen, William S. Burroughs, and like a mathematician all got together and created a dream machine. And the dream machine is basically just like it looks like a light. It's a lampshade, right? With the holes cut into it in the sides. You know how it goes.
And then Tony Conrad, who started Velvet Underground with Lou Reed, he made the first Flickr film called The Flicker.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's heavy because Tony Palmer used it in the Cream documentary, and then he made 200 Motels with Frank Zappa, and Zappa used it. But in actuality, I'll just shoot to that question right now. This is most people don't know that Abel Gance in France invented rapid montage, and so I asked what's his name, Michael Apted, 40 years ago. I says, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? And he said, because we've learned to take in information faster. Now, most people don't know that rapid montage technique really flourished. Even though it's invented in 1922, it flourished in the 80s with MTV, to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So the question is, what Michael Apted said, and I ask it with a bias, can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
So like the attention span is like one of the biggest things. Like, so we have that phone that we're born into with, and for like people like my generation, unfortunately, we're born with that phone in our hand. And our attention span's getting shorter and shorter all the time. I look at like the attention span that most kids have. It's less than 8 seconds nowadays. Like back in your generation, you could read a whole book and be like totally fine at the end of the night. And be like, I got that.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally brainwashed now. I can watch a video in 3 seconds, go, I'm out of here. My attention span is total. And I avoided MTV when it came out 15 years ago. I told my friends, there's a P-Funk video on a computer. And then my friend goes, dude, you shouldn't have told me. I went down a rabbit hole. So for 10 years, I never watched MTV. Now I'm fucking addicted, and it's horrible.
Yeah. There's all sorts of really great drums on there for sure. But what influenced MTV and like rapid cutting? Like look at like even the person that example like influenced the cinematography behind Martin Scorsese. Like Martin Scorsese has a lot to say about Kenneth Anger. And like Kenneth Anger, for example, like did the movie soundtracks for like people like Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, like back before there was music videos, you know? So like Kenneth Anger's cinema is like hugely influential with the rapid cutting effects and like the psychological aspect behind what it is, that your symbology, the colors, like the everything that happens behind the camera, and also like the audio that goes along with it is very important with creating that, you know.
Hunter, the term hypnagogic, that
Yeah. Like it comes from like zeotropes and like creating like
But onward and upward, let's stay in music for a little and then we'll get into film. And so, Copeland says the 4 elements are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. How do you juggle those? How do you know how to integrate them? Is rhythm your main one, or is there a ritual or any process?
Yeah, there's a method to the madness for sure, but like it's all a matter of like the time frame that you're existing in at that given moment, like what influences you have and what you've listened to in the past. But juggling those is like, for me, for example, I base off of all my creative experimental artwork, whether it be synthesizer or and everything else, like way outside the realms of just regular music, like pop and rock, for example. You lay down the drums first when you go in the recording studio. So if you have like a rhythm, whether it's even a drone or a sequence or a drum machine, like even just like having a delay pedal with like a certain sequence that you feed back into it, the way that the rhythm happens, it's all based off of the heartbeat, right? So like having something that is innate to people, the heartbeat within the music that you create is what is everything else is based off of. The rhythm section is most important. Everything else is icing on the cake.
Amazing, because you led into perfectly. You do have ESP. You just proved it. Why is 4/4 time the most commonly used signature in Western music? Let me go on a little rant just to set it up.
Yeah.
Besides being intuitive and easy, it might be because it's in sync with our heartbeat or walking or marching.
Absolutely.
But Captain Beefheart liked to vary from what he called the mama heartbeat. He said that same old 4/4 rhythm is related to fascism. It's so fixative, so hypnotic, so synthesized that it's dangerous. It's faster than the heartbeat. Disco is dangerous. He wanted to break the non-hypnotic music and break up this canatonic state. So I know that's a little going off, but why is 4/4 time the most commonly used signature in Western music?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everybody that you mentioned. Like Captain Beefheart's a huge influence on me. I love everything he did. Like with Frank Zappa, for example, like Frank Zappa had like the Black Page. I was just talking to my friend about this last night. He's a huge Frank Zappa fan, but he had the notation on like one of his pages, right, of music that he had written. The notation was so thick with what he had written that it was just like literally looked like a black page. Yeah, it was really cool. Like, and Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart worked a lot together, and like Captain Beefheart was a crazy dude that like lived on the outskirts of like Death Valley, like in a trailer park. Like he had like his own trailer in the middle of like Death Valley, and he would like get like wasted. I don't know, whatever. Like I don't think he really did substances. He was just like an out there dude. Maybe he was schizophrenic, maybe he was bipolar or like autistic, but maybe all the above. But he would like call people up and be like, I'm calling from Death Valley and I wanted to, and he like quote stuff from the Bible and all sorts of weird stuff. He's just a very strange out there dude. And Frank Zappa had a hard time dealing with him because like when he was recording drums and stuff, for example, he'd have very unconventional methods. There's people that are born into a system where like people outside of it, like that are neurodivergent, think it's really square to like think a certain way or like have a certain adaptation of theories or methods to how do you do your madness. It's like whatever works for you, so like, but to get back to what you were saying, I'm sorry, what was the question?
But the 4/4 time, that was really good. Yeah, actually Cap Beefheart called me up 52 times in 1991.
Like 4 o'clock in the morning too, right?
Yeah, once a week, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then my new friend, we just hired him to play bass. He used to go over to Beefheart's house when he was 16 because he lived 2 blocks
Wow.
from him. This is when Don lived in Woodland Hills.
Don
And
Van
in
Baby.
Yeah, Don Van Vliet. And Greg Cohen, he played bass for Tom Waits for 20 years. And
Wow.
he's on 30 John Zorn albums. And at 16, about 100 times over a year or two, he went and hung out with Beefheart and they would listen to Coltrane together.
Dude, nice. Yeah, Howlin' Wolf, Calico, yeah, John Coltrane, all that stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is that this idea of 4/4 time. I mean, it's basically, one guy said, well, we're 4/4 time is most commonly used because it's intuitive and easy. It's because we walk in 2 feet in 2 hands. That's, I mean,
Right,
you're
right.
a drummer, 2 and 2, that's 4/4 time. But is our heartbeat in 4/4 time? What's time signature do you think our heartbeat is in? Is it in a time signature?
So yeah, there's a whole like feedback loop that happens between the mind and like the heart, right? So like the blood pumping and like what the mind perceives around it like is all interconnected with each other, you know. So I don't know. What the heart beats at for sure, I would have to imagine, at least mine. I know that I'm wired a little bit differently, but I like fast music. I like fast-paced rhythm. I like marching and stuff like that. And the marching thing was really like a driven part of like, you know, the fascist ideology and like stuff like that. Like you're selling them on the fact of like the idea of triumphantness and epic, you know, like possibilities in the future. Like there was a very orgasmic feel behind like Hitler's speeches and stuff like that, where like he can like drive anybody else's emotions into like whatever he's perceiving or putting out there. And people are immediately like hook onto it, whether it's for good or for evil. But yeah, that 4/4 rhythm could be evil or it could be bad. But what we give off for our heart rate is all dependent on like what we're perceiving, right? So
Yeah,
you,
that's
you can like take that stuff and warp it to the maximum or like the very minimal too, like where you can
yeah.
like slow down your heart rate or like really crank it up depending on if you like punk rock or ambient music.
Yeah, like I was raised in Flint, Michigan, and the first drum teacher I had, it was all about John Philip Sousa drum beat, and it was like, dude, I want to play, rock and roll.
Yeah, Dennis Machine Gun Thompson, Ron Ashton, like Stooges, MC5 were like
Yeah,
influences on me ever.
big time. And so, my friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So, technique, you learned how to play drums. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
Taste is something that develops throughout your ability to be able to like emotionally sympathize with whatever it is that the artist is creating for you. So it creates a world or an atmosphere that you're able to perceive, and it really resonates with you. So that resonance creates like a timeless effect where like, you know, nothing else exists outside of whatever it is you're able to perceive while you hear that song. You know, it's like that timeless effect is the same thing people get when they drink a beer, right? Some people become alcoholics because they love that sensation of the first time they ever drank a beer. It was so great. It was what a rush, you know. But people, you know, love beer nowadays, a certain kind of flavor or whatever. They've grown into it for whatever reason forever because
Yeah.
of its emotional synergistic or synchronization between us and, you know, the music.
Well, that's funny because this is a McLuhan quote. I'm curious your thought using the word taste. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so like music is like the most universal kind of communication, like whether it's nonverbal communication, right? So like there's verbal communication, which has to do with music as being like, let's say you have vocals in music, right? That's like the human aspect of music. So like whatever you say that's within vocal range, right? So like anything you say with your voice creates like a human aspect that you're able to like resonate with and able to
Yeah.
like has an effect over you, like as in a human aspect, right? And like the percussion, for example, is like a innate nature within that music, right? And like the guitar, for example, is like, you know, I don't know, like fast guitars and fast cars and loud guitars are like something that are within one of each other, you know. Within the Detroit music scene, you see MC5 and the Stooges, right? Like you
Yeah.
just immediately hear like fast hot rods and stuff.
Yeah. What's more fundamental, language or music?
Music for me is fundamental because it exists universally between every culture among the face of the earth and more, maybe even, intergalactic cultures and things outside of our just plain terrestrial existence probably perceive sound just as much as we do. It might not sound as good to them, but air pressure changes and stuff like that, everything that exists within what we know as music probably affects everything out, even outside of the human realm.
Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
An instrumental that makes me laugh. There's Wild Man Fisher, which is a friend of Captain Beefheart. He did "Merry Go, Merry Go, Merry Go Round."
That has words. That has words. I mean, a song that has no words.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
So well, I met Wild Man Fisher several times. Yeah, that's good. You're quoting Wild Man Fisher. He should have been an instrumentalist.
So, like music, for example, that really resonates with me. That's strictly instrumental is like Klaus Schulze, like Tangerine Dream.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so one more a couple more music questions. Miles talked about the space between notes.
Yeah.
Thelonious Monk said silence is the loudest sound in the universe.
Yes.
How do you know when not to play? How do you know how to incorporate silence in your compositions?
So there's like a juxtaposition or contrast within all sorts of music. Whether like you take the rhythm section, for example, you invert it, you mirror anything, and you have the formula exactly how it was laid out for how it was supposed to be heard, but you just mirror it and invert it. You take anything and invert it, reverse it, or however you want to say it. Like, take that, and the way that it interacts with each other is really interesting.
Leonard Cohen said the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk, and if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
Yeah, I live dangerously, whether I like it or not. Like with the music that I create, like whether I'm prepared or not on stage, or whether a lot of it's improv. I do freeform experimental music, and it's like there is no formula to the stuff until you actually hear it and create it. Like there's a big feedback loop that happens with whatever it is you're doing and hearing at the same time, Yeah. So it's all interconnected with each other, but
what do you think the motive of the cave artists, cave dancers, and cave music was? What was their motive when they were making cave art?
The audio-visual aspect of everything, right? So like the thumping of the tribal drums is like resonant with the heartbeat, and like the flame around the fire that they beat their drums around is like the flickering aspect of like, there's a huge like innate thing within all that really like has gone on forever, that really like changes the way that we perceive music till this day.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction for sure. Like, no matter what people realize as being like good and wholesome or whatever it is, like serves its purpose nowadays, it might be a totally different thing not later on. So like having that classic conviction behind whatever it is that you do makes your art timeless. And that's what's most important with what I enjoy in artwork as being an artist,
Hunter, really cool, man. This is your accomplishments in life. How do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
With the ambition between making music, like the biggest ambition is just being born into like an artistic family and like just having instruments around, like being able to take your aggression out and like be able to like strap on the guitar and feel the airwaves moving when you like hit that chord or when you like beat that drum. That's like one of the biggest influences on me. What's the second one and third one? I'm sorry.
Ambition, skill, and luck. What comes after ambition, skill or luck?
So yeah, being really lucky like has a lot to do. It's not really like what you know as being an artist. It's like who you know a lot of times, because I see that like unfortunately crap sells. Like that's just what we deal with as an artist. Is like unfortunately a lot of the great like superlative visionary artists don't get appreciated until it's way too late. So like, and it's classic by the time that they're way dead and gone. But like that's like the stuff that I really love as an artist, is like stuff that's way underappreciated, way ahead of its time.
I agree. I'm there with you totally. T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
So there's many different like codes and formulas and stuff to like the communication between music, right? So like music, for example, is like I said, universal in the way that you don't need to like, you some people know like English, some people know Spanish, some people know French or whatever, but like music is in something that no matter who you are or what age you are, like you can just tap into it and it resonates with you. So yeah.
Two of my film heroes say there's no self-expression. Ignore yourself. Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and culture is dominant?
So as an artist, you're able to control what you are able to be influenced by. So let's say, for example, like you have a keyboard or a synthesizer. And like I have a friend that plays keyboards, Paul Resnick, and he's a genius. He like taught me about phase looping. He's been around doing this for over 30 years. And he like has one of the greatest synth collections that I've ever seen in my life. And he helps influence like our synth collection. But um refresh me on that really quick.
It basically boils down to, can art making be egoless?
Yes, for sure, for sure. So like what was the first question that you had said?
Well, it's more like, are we more a vehicle or
Yes,
tapping into the muse, or are we more self-expression?
So like we are a vehicle, and like so for example, this dude Paul, like depending on the sound that he conjures on that synthesizer, like it influences you, and that sound that you conjure up like influences you enough in the way that it'll make a whole song in and of itself just by hearing that sound. Like I'll come to the studio, sit down at the keyboard, the synthesizer, and not know anything about what I want to do, and just that sound, I hear one sound and it's like, oh, I got the whole song already.
Yeah.
So like the sound influences you, and like what you're able to do with it and mold it and like shape it as what as an artist is, yeah, like the way that those things work together.
It's good, Hunter, because I often use two examples, and you being a drummer might appreciate them. James Brown's drummer was the architect for funk drumming. They said, how'd you get your sound? He says, I lived in Ohio. One side of my house was a train track, and the other side was a factory. So it was like, it came from the two, its environment. And then they asked Ginger Baker, where'd you get your drum sound from? He says, I was in London when they were bombing. Boom, 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 boom. So that's what caused their drum sound, was their environment. So
yeah, industrial music for sure is a big influence on like percussion, for example. Like industrial music wouldn't exist without the industrial revolution and machine shops happening. Being someone that works in like a t-shirt factory, we have a press that goes around in a circle all day long, and the sound of it going psh, psh, or just like growing up in Detroit in a Ford factory, and like the brake presses or anything that happens, the big that happens like is influential from everything from like MC5 and Stooges to like nowadays till industrial music like Throbbing Gristle, Skinny Puppy, all that cool fun stuff.
All those, yeah. Tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed in your creative life.
One element that's stayed the same throughout forever is just like being able to know the magic behind what it is you want to do. Like just being able to be innately in tune and cooperate with what it is that you hear and feedback within your nature, right? And like like you said, the previous question is like being an artist and like knowing your environment, and like the environment influences you, and like having a feedback loop between all of that creates a cacophony of sound that can create a whole song in and of itself,
Then what's changed?
So what's changed as being an artist is like knowing that, I've known forever getting in this for the money is not anything realistic. But like, of course, when I'm 4 years old, 5 years old, and I'm picking up drums, it's like, oh, this can be the greatest thing ever. Like, you can have a future in like being in this, that, and the other thing. But like, you have real conviction, like as we said earlier, like,
yeah,
your thing might not sell nowadays because like you're way ahead of your time as you may be,
And so Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Yeah, so any kind of defective thing that you find within your artwork, making it I don't know what the right word is for this, like taking anything that doesn't work for you within your art, like that's like the alchemy of thought, right? So you take anything that's like naturally disadvantageous to you, and like the alchemy of thought is like saying that, hey, you know, you think about this in the right perspective, you could totally change your perspective and the
Yeah.
outcome of this, and it could work for you, right? So,
Yeah, that's this is what McLuhan learned from Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce.
yes,
How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? How do you turn a rejection into a redirection?
yeah,
So
make it that doesn't work
Iggy's,
for you a feature, right? So like
yeah,
anything defective, make it a feature within that artwork. You know, let's say there's a scratch or there's like,
yeah,
you know, like film, for example, you have film sitting out for too long, you get the vinegar syndrome effect where like things just look really dilapidated and grainy and they look like really
yeah.
like that. The whole thing is like, yeah, it has an effect to it in and of itself. So yeah.
That's vinegar syndrome. That's beautiful. There's a YouTube channel I just found yesterday called Vinegar Syndrome. But
Is it a distribution company for like DVDs of old school like classic
something
horror?
something like that. Yeah, but the best example I usually use is Iggy. Iggy said, "My band was so bad imitating the Rolling Stones, we invented punk rock."
Dude, yes, exactly. Dude, I wanted to tell you, for example, so like the first wave of punk rock, you know Iggy and the Stooges, you know MC5, you've been from, you're from Detroit your whole
Yeah,
life. So like
yeah,
back in 76, right? They have this album that got released from Cleveland called The Pagans.
yeah,
And the Pagans, for example, were like paving the way of like taking things and just cranking them to 11. You hear like the Dead Boys, you hear Stooges.
yeah,
Like Funhouse is a really great example of like the record, like, and like raw power, like Stooges,
yeah,
like hearing things turn to 11, like there's just like, it's a barrage of like noises, but it works really well and it was timeless. And I love it so much to this day for that reason.
yeah.
Um,
There was a band in Ann Arbor called The Up. That's what they were, worse than Blue Cheer, but not. Then they ended up all playing with Patti Smith, and we were always like, but it's amazing the volume thing. So, uh, fill in the blank, Hunter. Anger can be a productive emotion when
productive anger being a productive emotion is always great when you're able to like conjure up like that. Anger is like what you feed back into your music, like so like my anger like is what I do with what I play when I play drums. The whole idea behind playing drums faster, louder, harder, and everything that I want to do with music is like based on the idea of anger and like that feeding back into the music. So like me being pissed off enough as I am, like you can like have it work for you instead of against you, as much as the alchemy of thought can be, right? So like you get mad enough behind the drums, you love hitting something that doesn't hit you back, man, and then you make an art form out of it. It works for you.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect lead in. You create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait morphed that into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your brain is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So
I used to be an atheist, but I couldn't think of anything to say during a blowjob. I said, what do I say? Oh God. No, it doesn't work. There's no oh God. You just say, oh, random chance. Oh, random chance.
But this idea, Hunter, I'm not saying you, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on you create what you resist?
Yeah, so like everything that we reflect as an artist is like a lot of our deep subversive or subconscious thoughts and stuff like that, whether it's for good or for bad. But being an artist, there's lots of subconscious things that pour out, whether we realize it or not, of course, that are deeply subversive or innate to us within our nature, whether it's good or for evil, negative, evil, anger, all that good stuff. It's all there.
Yeah,
that's the raw power of heavy rock music from the Stooges all the way till just like a crazy artwork, visually and everything else.
Beautiful. These are 5 Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words.
I love it.
One, who started it all?
Who started it all? In my opinion, I honestly think that like I want to so believe in like the idea that there's extraterrestrials that really just planted us here. Like they put like, let's just think, for example, like the Garden of Eden, like the apple there or whatever it is, it may be, like whatever fruit. They put like a little piece of DNA in a syringe and like put it in that apple from the Garden of Earthly Delights, and maybe that's really like changed us to like be terrestrial enough to like become extraterrestrial one day,
Beautiful. Second, Alan Watts. Are we going to make it?
Are we going to make it is up to us, depending on how much bullshit we're willing to put up with and how much change we want to make in ourselves and like what we want to see in the world, you know?
3, where do we put it?
Where do we put the future of our world? Maybe in outer space, because I don't see much hope left in the planet.
4, who's cleaning it up?
Who's cleaning it up? Nature will take care of itself. You know, over the years, you know, you've seen tsunamis, you've seen maybe humanity hasn't been here just one time. Maybe they've been here 4 times or more. So like, you know, nature will always consume itself and like take back what it once gave to us. You know, like we've raped Mother Earth for so long that finally like a tsunami will come by or some other thing will come and just wipe us out, and then some other thing will come up and make something else out of it.
Number 5, is it serious?
Is it serious? If you know, it depends on what we want to get out of the world. You know, people that have been here enough are like in tune with themselves and the world around them in the universe. You know that this is a long time coming, that things like the end of the world might happen, and what people want to learn from it is depending on how developed you are, like mentally, physically, just mature wise. So if you need to learn a lot more, I hope that you leave a world that you want to leave for the next generation, because like past generations and future ones, I worry about like what they want to leave for the world, because like what you want to get out of it is most important, right?
Dude, this has been really fun. We got about 10 more minutes. I really appreciate your time here, Hunter. So Utah Phillips is folk singing labor activist. He said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Yeah, anybody that feels entitled enough will be able to make the rules, but only for themselves. You know, like most artists know better than to subscribe to anybody else's belief system, you know. So what you do with your world is like what makes you an artist, you know.
Amazing, because the word freedom etymologically breaks down to what Utah said, making one's own laws for one's own self. What does freedom mean to you now?
Hold on, I apologize. Let me delete this really quick.
Yeah.
What does freedom mean to myself? So freedom means like the ability to live without boundaries or limitations and have no expectations on what you want to like get out of your creative endeavors, but just know that whatever comes out of it is worthwhile in the future, just for yourself and future generations perhaps, but just knowing that it's doing something for you and maybe other people is the icing on the cake of being an artist.
You're really concise and articulate. Here's Hollis Frampton, experimental filmmaker. Narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
Yeah, forgetting to die is like one of the greatest things that you can do as a human being, to know that there's a future ahead of us, like to believe in reincarnation. Like in order for reincarnation to be a possibility, you have to believe in it enough, right? So like the idea that there may be a future world for any of us, you know, like is what gives future hope for whatever it is you want to create, because everything else would just be nihilistic at this point.
Yeah, and when we were into music, I forgot to inject this one thing. I'm curious. I've asked people what is the function of music, and this one guy said to hypnotize people to be themselves. Can you talk about that a little? Maybe identity, because he's sort of like I see the hypnotized people, but to be themselves.
Yeah, to be able to hypnotize oneself to be yourself is just to tap into or tune into whatever it is that you know, you have a soul, right? So that, I mean, if you believe in the soul, like for example, you know, you can tap into the future timelines or realities that exist, right? Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's good, because both Krishnamurti and McLuhan say violence is the human search for identity. Any thought on that?
Yeah, what we want to see in the rest of the world, we end up what we want to see within ourselves that lacks the most, we end up taking out on the rest of the world, you know, like so any of our flaws and stuff like that come out within our creations and our pros and cons and everything else, right? So it's all.
Yeah. I spoke with someone. I said, what's the best thing for a human being? And they said to figure out who you are. And I'm like, Alan Watts says, I didn't say this to them, but Alan Watts says everybody's trying to figure out who they are, identity. If you figure out who you are, you're fucked.
Yeah, if you find out too much about what's within inside yourself, man, it's like you come to the realization that there's like an end point to realizing where you are and what becomes of yourself within your interaction in the universe, and it's like it's pretty bland after that.
How do you find peace of mind?
Finding peace of mind is just be able to like tap within what's inside yourself and resonate it within the universe enough to have like a cacophony or like feedback loop or some sort of thing that like creates like a tsunami wave of energy that works for everybody and everybody around you and yourself.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Don't give up, you know what I mean? Because like everything that you want to see within inside the world is out there to be discovered, but and it will happen. It's just a matter of like finding it in the right time, and like if you're prompt enough to do what it is you want to do, it'll change the world for everybody else and yourself around you.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under? You're laughing.
I prefer toilet paper to be wrapped around the mayor's office or like this.
Finally, someone doesn't answer the question as posed. That is amazing because 85% of people say over, and the patent is 100 years old and that has it over. But the people who say under have their reasons. So there you go.
Yeah, I prefer to TP anybody and everybody that's
TP. Is that a Midwest thing? Is if a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
The title of it be Agent Chaos.
And they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
What smell would it be? It would smell like freedom.
Oh, that is good. By the way, there's a great word in Finnegan's Wake where he took chaos and cosmos and put them together, and it's called chiasmo.
Oh, yes. I love that. That's amazing.
That is an amazing word. It captures it all. Okay, if a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
I want it to be displayed in like an orgone accumulator. So if you look at like Wilhelm Reich, for example, like he's one of the psychoanalysts, right? So he did like energy work with like the sexual like functions of the human body, right?
Most people know about him because of the Woody Allen film. They don't realize he's getting in an organ. Yeah, that's good. By the way, you anticipated the last question. I bring up Wilhelm Reich. So, dude, you have major ESP. So back to the question: they want to build a statue for Hunter. Where is it displayed and what's it made of?
You can either like put it like right in the middle point. So like there's like 4 states in America, right, that all like intersect with each other in like one area, right? So you can be in all 4 states at once. I would like to put it either there or like maybe Bermuda Triangle or like some like esoteric place, And
what's it made of?
It's made out of orgone accumulator. So every
time.
Okay,
I got you. Very good. Okay, tell me something good you never had and you never want.
I want to say love, for example, like to no love too.
It's good. You never had it and you never want it. Well, you must have had unconditional love when you pop out of your mother's womb.
What do I want to never have? Getting married.
Yeah, okay. It's good. You never had it and you never want it. That's good. See, it's an answerable question. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck, sure, and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Spit it back out at him.
What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
The cultural shifts that I want to see in the world is like people like my generation, like getting into Robert Anton Wilson, Alan Watts, like Aleister Crowley, all sorts of weird, fun, interesting people. Timothy Leary. Like I want to see more kids taking acid and like just like tapping the codes within the brain, like the 8 circuit model,
But that sounds like Burning Man. But is Burning Man yuppies posing as that, or is that somewhat what Burning Man is? What you just
It depends on what you go there for sure. I know that there's lots of like either like even in Cleveland, for example, we're known for being the rock and roll capital, but there's plenty of pests and insects everywhere. You know, no matter where you go, there's a bad apple in every bunch. But what you go there for and what you want to get out of it is up to you. And
yeah.
those places, like good stuff like that, festers there. So it's a matter of what you want to find and what you find.
It's like the Sphere in Vegas, you know, they have the Grateful Dead. It's like one of the most subversive rock bands. And now it's all fucking rich yuppies spending $800 for a ticket. But my friend said the Deadheads have figured out how to walk in through a casino and get in the Sphere free. And I was interviewing this guy who works with the Dead, and he goes, they're vagrants. I'm like, vagrants? That's what Jerry Garcia wanted them to do.
Dude, there's a funny theory that I've heard. Like, I've seen people walk into like art museums and like movie theaters and stuff. There's a theory that if you carry like a ladder into anywhere, you can get in any place.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the maintenance people, you have like, you know, overalls or coveralls. For example, there was that pranks book, and go back around to where we started, right before we finished. There's that dude Pauline, right? Mark Pauline.
Yeah.
And Mark Pauline does the survival research laboratories. He decided to wear the coveralls and go to like a billboard in the middle of California, and it said like, it was like some like middle-aged schmuck that like looked like he had nothing better to do than sell people on some bullshit. And like it was like just like a pizza ad commercial, right?
Yeah.
And this he like painted over this guy's face to like have like big bulging like bloodshot eyes, and like it says, instead of like I don't know, it says like
it's called, they changed billboards. It's Culture Jammers. I know all those guys. I've interviewed them, and it's funny because they go, we're improving ad copy.
that's the agents of chaos at work at its finest.
The best, man, the Culture Jammers. But I made a film called Who's Jamming the Culture Jammers? Nice. So then there's it's even deeper. But that was good what you said, and because we got to stay on our toes even when the you know, like the Yes Men made their films, and you know, in the long run, does all that subversive art just empower who they're cutting down? And there is some of that. You know, Jean-Luc Godard told Michael Moore, he says, your film's going to help Bush get elected. Now, it didn't help Bush get elected per se, but it galvanized pro-Bushers. So you don't have control. Once you create your art, it's no longer yours. Anyone
admitting and recognizing the problem so boldly and like outwardly, like there's going to be so many people out there that just like love that adaptation so much they will run with it, you know?
Yeah. And you're not responsible. When you make your art, whatever people do to it, they can do whatever they want. If you go, hey, you misused it, that's their choice.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay, what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
What came first, the chicken or the egg? But yeah, that sort of thing, you know.
How has your creative artistic life shaped your behavior?
So like everything that I do within the confines of my existence is like based on just my artistic endeavors and adventures. So everything that I do is based around like everything that I think about. Like I think about everything in an artistic way. Like you take anything, you could take a rock, for example, you turn it on its side, turn it upside down, flip it around, look at it in a mirror. It's always a new rock every single time. So what you look at with anything that you want to perceive is an artistic thing. And, you know, yeah, what you do with it is pretty cool with what other people perceive in it too.
It's Marcel Proust question. On what occasion do you lie?
White lies are great when it comes to like pleading the fifth in court, like when you get, I don't know, situations like that. Yeah.
This is Thornton Wilder, 1928.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, I swear.
This is Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. Yeah, honey, you've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
What it's really all about for me is being able to interact outside the confines within my perception. And like, if you crack the codes, like I said, for example, you can like hack other people's reality. And like being a reality hacker, you know, for example, like being a cultural jammer is one and the same, you know, like doing that is like the Lord's work for me, you know.
Is perception reality?
Yeah, perception is the only reality for the perceiver for sure, but everybody else's reality might differ, so it depends on who you are.
What gives you the most optimism?
Gives me the most optimism is being able to see like pop up like mom and pop shop venues and like fun interactive places that want to do something outside the realms of what people already know as being just like normal artistic behavior, you know.
It's really good. The first question I asked you was, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being.
Yeah, for sure. It's a feedback loop, you know?
Yeah. And then the last question I asked is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Hunter. Thank you so
Very
much.
much, dude. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
That was really good. And even though I'm going to hit, the Misfits, that's a cool shirt you have on. Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I really appreciate you. And I hope you and Sam are doing excellent. Thank you so much.
All right. All right, dude. Have a good one. Thanks.
Well done.